Thank you very much, Nathan, and welcome in, everybody. So I'm going to talk about a new thing that we've made here at Zeit, which some of you would have got a preview yesterday. But first of all, I'm John. I'm the Developer Engagement Manager at Zeit. I've been web scraping for 10 or so years, and I also have a YouTube channel where I share my journey and share web scraping techniques, etc. So when AI burst onto the screen with web scraping, I was definitely skeptical. I couldn't clearly see how it was going to make my life easier, given the knowledge of web scraping that I have, and I think a lot of you have as well. There was a lot of hype, and that really made me quite disillusioned because, you know, if I had to scrape any site on anything ever again, it was just going to make me bang my head against the wall. So the pain was real with it, and trying to figure out what we were trying to do, and getting to the point where I could actually get something tangible, and RMRF became one of the most common commands I was using on my machine to just get rid of that mess that was being created. I came up with a few things that I actually really wanted from some kind of AI tool. I wanted to remain in control of my code. This was really important for me. I already have a productive tool set that I use, which I'm sure you guys all do as well. It was very important that whatever I had that I was going to use integrated with that. I didn't want to have to leave my IDE to go in somewhere else and try and do something else and get something out of it. The space that I found that I thought we could get the most benefit from was generating parsing code. This was an interesting one because having to look through loads of HTML to try and figure out, you know, the selectors and everything like that was very time consuming, quite brittle. So I knew that this would save me time. The other key thing was, you know, still a developer, and for us in teams, we don't work alone. You need to submit your PR to be approved, it needs to be testable, it needs to pass whoever judges your code and keeps you employed. So that was really important. This was one of the things that I came across a lot, and this is one of the pain points that was really difficult for me. The AI just tries to please you all the time. The amount of time, if you just go and Google that phrase and Claude AI, you get a million hits where people are saying, it just says you're absolutely right every time. This is how you generate awful AI slop spaghetti code, and you end up with this if you're not careful. We don't want that, obviously. So what was our solution? Our solution was what we call Web Scraping Copilot. It's a VS Code extension, which the team at Zeit has made, and I've been fortunate enough to be a part of that. The best part, I got to test it and tell them what I didn't like. I don't have to actually build it. So kudos to those guys. So I don't want to just talk about it. I'm going to code on it, and we'll see how this goes. So let's start. I'm going to come over to my code editor. Let's make this nice and big so we can see. Now, I mentioned at the start that I really wanted to be able to stay in my IDE, and I wanted something that worked within my workflow. So for me, this is how I started all my projects. I use UV. If you're still using standard pip, you're wrong. You need to move over. All the new best tools, right? So I'm going to activate my virtual environment, very similar. So what you'll see at the start is I'm going to create a lot of this stuff manually because for me, I wanted the agent to only interact in the parts that I wanted it to. You can, of course, ask the agent to generate all this stuff for you, right? But I don't want to do that. I want to do it myself. This is my workflow. So we'll create our project. And I'm going to generate my spider for the chosen site. So now we've got our project created. I'm still not going to go to the AI because I still want to keep my control. I want to choose my settings. I want to make sure the project is set up how I want it. I don't want anything else put in here. So I'm going to come to my add-ons, and there's a couple that I'm going to enable. And I will talk about these in a little bit more detail as we go through the workflow. You get to see my terrible typing live. And I don't have my fancy keyboard here, so that's my excuse. Cool. Now I'm going to use the Zeit API for this, but I want to iterate this point straight away. This extension is not coupled to the Zeit API. I'm using it because I want to have access to our tools and get through the ban protection, but you can use whatever you want. So whatever your solution is to get the data from the sites that you're trying to do will still work with this. You just need to have your scraping project configured in the right way. There's one more setting I'm going to add. and I'm going to create this. This is for Scrapey Poet. Scrapey Poet is integral to this. I'm going to cover that in just a minute. Let me just create this folder so we're on the right page. So let's just double check where I'm in the right place. There's a couple more settings I want to change. This one, I don't know why that's even like that. And we need some more concurrency because we don't want to sit around waiting for ages. Perfect. So I'm happy with my project settings. Again, I still haven't touched the agent yet, and that's by design. But we're going to look at doing that now. So what I want is an item. Now, I toyed around with this a lot because I wasn't sure whether I actually wanted to create the item class myself or use it in the agent, but we're going to get prompting now. So I'm going to get rid of all of this out of the way. So I know that the agent text is a little bit small, but hopefully you can read it. There's a thing to note here. So I have the extension installed, and we get this extra button down here. There's nothing in it at the moment other than you can see my spider because I have a generic one. There's also this page objects. And what you can do here is you can click this button to generate the code. But I prefer to do it my way. So I'm going to come straight over here, and I'm going to add the agent. I'm going to change it to web scraping. And this is going to utilize the MCP servers that we've created that's included in the extension or runs locally, that has the instructions that our team came up with, the best instructions they found to work and generate what we actually wanted. So I'm going to select this here. Model-wise, I'm going to use GPT-5 Mini. I've had good success with this, and it's included with the standard Copilot Pro license, I think, which is like $10 a month. But you can use whichever model you prefer. In my experience, it's working out the best way with that right there. And I've got a note that I've already done something wrong. We'll come back to that. Thank you, Adrian. If all of my code projects were delivered like that, that would be fantastic. I'd be a 10x engineer. So I'm using GPT-5 Mini. There is an option. You don't have to use Copilot Pro. You can use your own models, but you need the API key. That is, I think, just been implemented. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I know the guys were working on that, right? So let's create an item using data classes. We recommend data classes or even attrs now for Scrapey projects for a product. And we'll have include fields name, price as a float, and SKU, I think. Let me just double check that that's what I wanted to include. Yeah, that should be fine. Cool, let's ask it to do that. So it's going to generate the item for us, and from there we can start to work and get the page object. So one thing I found is you can never really predict how long it's going to take the AI to work on this stuff. So, it could be super quick and I could end up, having things left over to say, or if I start to waffle because I'm waiting for it to do its thing, please just forgive me in that respect. I'm going to disable this MCP server. Right. Perfect. So I think it's created a load of extra stuff that I really didn't want. Great. Good start. What is all of this? We'll leave it and we'll just see what happens. So the next thing I want to do is I want to create the page object for this, and this is the note that Adrian's just given me. I think he might be wrong, but we'll give it a go. I've never done this, but I've never had to do this before. I think it did it for me before. Anyway, so now I'm going to come back over, and this is where the actual the whole thing really happens. So I'm going to say create a page object for this item, and then we want to generate fixtures, and I think I have to do the update expectations and code. I'll tell you why I'm using that terminology in just a second. I'm going to grab a couple of URLs to give it as samples, because it's going to download these again through my Scrapey project, and it's going to use this to figure out what we're trying to get and what we need from the selectors to do so. So if we looked at the MCP server that comes with the extension, you can see that there's 3 tools within it, and they are update code, page, and expectations, which is why I use that terminology. I don't want to leave anything up to chance. Now, when you run this the first time, it goes ahead and checks the status of Scrapey Poet. Now, I mentioned Scrapey Poet earlier. And it's integral because what it gives you is it gives you that page object, and it allows you to have testable code against the selectors. Oh, to proceed. Perfect. Right here, proceed. But with the extension, if you're not used to Scrapy Poet or you haven't used it that much, when you run this create page object, it will check the settings for you, and it'll check that you've got everything installed that you need, and it will then add that in for you if it needs to. Now, I did that all ahead of time because obviously I think I know better, so that's why I do that first now. I want to have full control over it. Okay, so I just need to move this over so we can see it's generating the fixtures. So this is where it's using our Scrapy settings to download those 2 pages. I'll show you that in just a second. But this is where, if you were using whatever you're using to get data from the websites rather than the Zite API, obviously I think you should use the Zite API because it's the best tool, but there you go. Whatever you're doing, it will work there. I'm going to hit allow to let the MCP server work. Trying to fit this all on the screen is a little bit difficult. I'll come over to fixtures. We now have 2 tests in here with an output.json, which is nothing at the moment because there is nothing there, but we also have the input, which is both of the pages. And these are the HTML pages, the HTML from those 2 pages that I gave it. Now, if I can just, you can see the title in there. Now, generally, when you're doing this, the more sample pages you can give it, the better, because then it's got a much more chances of getting the right thing. So obviously, if the pages are slightly different, it can work it out. I've given it 2 very similar pages because I'm trying to get this example to work perfectly and smoothly. So I'm cutting as many corners as I can to make sure I give you something that you can see. So we can see it's working, it's implementing fields. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so I have a little bit more working space because we're going to need to do some more coding again in just a second. So you see it implementing fields. This is going to update through the MCP server with the instructions that we've given it, update the expected output, the expectations from the page. There it's going to then find the selectors that it needs, and it's going to generate all the code for us. Now you'll notice at the moment, I haven't even shown you the page object. I don't need to. It's created it, it's there. We'll have a look at it once it's updated the code, but as it stands, I haven't actually had to do anything Scrapy Poet-wise. It's just doing it itself, right? So 97% seems to be working. Okay, finished. Let's look at the output. Okay, you can see it's updating it right here. This is exactly what I want. What I want to show you, though, is what's come back from the MCP server here. And it's kind of small, but basically what's responded is, the tool doesn't update anything, but it tells the Copilot AI what to do. So it said, here's what you're expecting, and here's what I think you should put in for the page object to be able to replicate this. This has come from the instructions that we created. So I'm going to scroll back down. It's running through what it's suggesting. So I'm going to hit allow on this to allow the test. So we have 2 failed tests. What it's going to do, it can see that, so it's going to update it. It's going to rethink again, and it's going to go back through the HTML, and it's going to say, okay, this didn't work, let's have another go. And I found, generally speaking, going back to my previous point, that if it starts to fail tests, I like to give it an opportunity or 2 to go and try and fix it. After 1 or 2 times round, I think it's best that I intervene and I start to change it. But we can see we have 10 passed now, and that's all of the fields. And it's just running through what it did. So we haven't seen this yet, but let's have a look. Let's move this out of the way. Scoot this down. So here's the page object and the product page code that it generated for extraction. So this is, a few 100 lines of code. I didn't have to write any of this, but is this perfect? No, probably not. But it's testing, right? So that gives me a really good base I can start at because it's testing properly. So I can leave this, and I know that this is going to generate, for these pages at least, what I was expecting. Let's keep this. And now I need to come back over and just adjust my spider a little bit. So we're going to change this. We don't need any of this. We'll have our URL, which is going to be a string, and I will put that in just a second when I go back out. Then we're going to use async Scrapy, so async def start. And I want to then yield our Scrapy request, and we can call back to self.pass. We'll be fine. Let's create that. and I need to actually import my item. Go to my project. We import in our product item. Double check that that's what it was actually called. Product, yep. Now we need to just finish our parsing off here. We don't need the response, but what we do need is to pass in our product. And this is another thing that Scrapey Poet's going to give us through WebPoet, is that we don't have to do anything like that in here. Straight through here we can say, this is the item that's linked to the page object, and we just want to yield it out. So I don't have to do anything else. What this means is that we can have a single spider that can run through different websites, right? Because we create new page objects for those websites to have the parsing code and the selectors. We can run it through the same spider. I'm not going to do that today, though, because I don't want to embarrass myself by getting something wrong. So I'm going to open my terminal back up. I come to the one that's got my environment, and we're going to go and grab the URL for the page again. And let's put that in here. Let's go ahead and see if what we get out is what we're expecting. So Scrapey crawl, products. That looked a bit too quick. Yeah. I said I wasn't going to do this. Adrian, what is it? Oh, I chopped off. It's always human error. No, can't possibly be me. Now it's working, and we should have, up here somewhere, the product. Not a lot of data, but I want to keep it simple for this example. Great. So we've done an awful lot of work, it seems like, or an awful lot of time just to scrape one item. But we need to think about expanding this out. We need to think about how, if we were doing this a lot of times, it's going to save us a lot of energy and time, save us a lot of engineering time. I'm going to do one more thing, though. I am going to go back over here and start prompting some more stuff, because we're going to ask it to scrape the listing page. So I'm going to say, create a new item for list page. Fields are URL and product URLs, and generate fixtures and expectations. I'm going to go and grab the listing page with all the links on. I'll stick that in there. Now, in this case, I'm asking it to do pretty much everything in one go. So in the previous example for the product page, I was doing it in steps. So this time around, I'm just saying, just do it all for me, okay? Because I know it's got the context of my project and it's in there, so I'm hopefully expecting it to just do it as I want it to do, right? So here's our list page product, our list page item, sorry. Looks good. Creating an empty page object, which we'll look at this time. Cool, sure. Oh, and you can just see down here, we've successfully pulled down the fixtures. If I go over to here, we now have another folder for our fixtures. Again, same deal, the HTML here for the page, and the expected output, which obviously is null at the moment because there isn't anything there. And now it's going to do the expectations, update everything. This one seems to take a little bit longer. So I want to explain, whilst it's doing this, one of the issues that I've found in trying to do this example a few times. The testing for the list page often failed because although it had the right parsing logic, it didn't get all of the URLs into the test. So again, here's the thing where I was trying to explain at the start. It's a helping tool. It doesn't do everything, although I've asked it to do quite a lot in this. It's not supposed to replace what you're doing. You need to be in control of your code, and you need to understand what you're trying to achieve. This is a way to help you be more productive. I know everybody likes that word. And a way to do more whilst utilizing the AI in the right way. So we're on 50% at the moment. I'll let this tick over. I might try and update the spider whilst it's doing this as well. Although I tried this earlier, and I ended up mistyping a load of stuff, and it caused a load of issues. So we'll bring on our list page. We need to change this to, we need the response here, because we're going to use that with scrapey follow all, and we need to put our list page in here. Who was here yesterday who shouted out to me, you can disable your Copilot, and I was very adamant that I didn't want to shut it out for a minute, and I'm going to suffer for it. So we want to do for URL in list page dot product URLs, and then, oh, here we go. This is the fun part. Get rid of that. We're going to yield it out, response.follow, which is why we want to use Scrapey's response here, because it's going to sort all the URL out for us and everything, so make it correct. Now I just need to put our async path product back in, and that just needs to have, we don't need the response here. I'll back to our item product like this, so cool. So that should be it for our spider. It's almost done implementing the fields, and I'm assuming I'm going to get the same problem where it's going to show me the testing fail, but that'll be interesting for us to see. Let's come back over here. In this instance, it's generated the list page within the same file. Generally, we would split that out. We would have a separate Py file for different page objects, but it will work the same way. I've got the fields in here, and if I come out to the output.json, so here we are. This is what I was expecting to find, and it's going to update everything now. It has found quite a lot of links in this instance, but I think we're still going to have the same problem. Let's double check and see what happens when we run our test. Cool. There we go. That's the code it's come up with. Sure. Looks good to me. Okay, so this is the problem, right? So on this page, and I'm going to stop this from running now. I'm going to hit keep, and we're going to leave that. On this page, it has a lot of URLs, and in this instance, you can see we found way more than what appeared. But for me, I know that that makes sense, so I'm happy to ignore that in this instance, and let's try running the spider again. We should get nothing because I didn't add the correct URL to the spider here. This page won't work because it doesn't have everything on it. I'm going to grab the URL. Cool. So hopefully we can see all the data coming back here. Zipping by, high concurrency. So this is it. This is what I wanted to demo. I just wanted to show you. So what we've done is we've created, using the VS Code extension, we've created the page objects that we need for two separate pages. And we've generated code that we can test, even though we had that issue. We've generated code that we can test and code that is working. So we've saved a load of time from me having to go through and find selectors. I'm going to stop this because I don't need to run this. So that's going to conclude my part here. I'm going to now hand over to my colleague Iain, who's going to talk about this a bit more in a slightly different context. Let me get back up for you.
Can I take the clicker? Thank you.
There you go.
Thanks, John. I wanted to put a little bit of shape on the direction we're aiming for with this. And it's one of supporting AI for production web data. What do I mean by production web data? I mean the kind of context of gathering web data that is powering the products and services upon which our business runs. That specific scenario. And when I talk to people in this room about what are the characteristics needed of solutions that support web data for production systems that powers products and services, these are the kind of characteristics I tend to be given feedback on. I was having a conversation with Martha yesterday, and the word deterministic came up early. that a solution where AI at runtime is giving its best guess on which is the right field is problematic for data that powers products which we're offering to our customers. That we need that kind of deterministic quality. That quality needs to be testable and monitorable and correctable. Those are adjectives. This third one is something I've been given feedback on. When I've asked people, what do we need to do in a machine learning or AI-powered extraction solution for you to use it at production scale? And one of the items of feedback I've been given is, it's got to be agnostic of band solution. Many of the businesses in this room will be running multiple solutions for bands, multiple proxy vendors or web unblockers, so that from a business continuity perspective, the right solution could be chosen for a given site and a given day. And I get it. And I've been told that's non-negotiable. Without that kind of agnosticism over proxy vendor, we can only use this for prototypes. So these are the kind of characteristics that I'm given feedback on. Is this resonating? And so perhaps simplistically, this points to a split between code and no-code solutions. And what are no-code solutions wonderful for? For agility or simplicity or ease of use or nimbleness. The kind of use cases I see on LinkedIn where people say, as a marketing professional, I want to gather 1,000 leads for a sales campaign. Now I can do that in 2 hours and I don't need an engineer. That's fabulous. It's a great use of no-code. But these kinds of no-code solutions don't tend to exhibit the kind of characteristics we saw in the previous slide. And so what does? This is where code solutions are currently the solution of choice. But even within this picture, there are perhaps spectrums of use. So maybe I need a sample data set, a few hundred records, just to demonstrate to a customer. Can I vibe code that versus production volumes and production quality? And that kind of spectrum shows how web data is part of the broader picture of AI for software engineering. This is Andrej Karpathy. He was the guy who coined the term vibe coding. He was director of AI at Tesla. And here he is. He was in June. It's a really lovely talk. I'll share the link to this with the slides. He was speaking at the Y Combinator conference. And he was talking about how AI is transforming software. He said, it's changing again. And some of the themes he was talking about is how can we get the best out of large language models, but mitigate some of their challenges and their hallucinations. And in his view, this is a solution design problem. That how can we put AI on the right length of leash according to the task at hand? And when he talks about this as a solution design problem, he describes partial autonomy apps. Apps that have these kinds of characteristics. That have UIs where, as humans, we can see what's going on in the workflow. They're not a black box. We can see what it's doing. We can quickly verify if it's getting it right and correct it very quickly. That we have choice-making that we can make over the level of autonomy that we want to give it according to the task at hand. And he talks about examples of partial autonomy apps. He mentions Perplexity and Cursor. And Cursor has that kind of spectrum, where I think we heard yesterday it's got a YOLO mode, where I can just accept everything. And that's great for a Saturday morning prototype, maybe not for production systems. But yeah, I can hit Control-K in Cursor and just change one line of code. And so it's got that kind of slider from assist to agent and the level of autonomy that I want to give it. But this kind of picture of choosing a level of autonomy, yes, it's partly down to the context of the task at hand. Is this a low risk or a high risk goal? Is this a prototype or is this production systems? But it's also perhaps a journey of AI, of building trust, so that the general trend can be over towards the left, over towards more autonomy as trust is established. And that's an experience I've had in Austin when I was here for this event a year ago. I was the dumb British tourist getting out his phone to take pictures of Cybertrucks. I'd never seen them before. And I'd never seen autopilot mode, where the driver can get in and say, this is where I want to go, and off the truck goes. I'd never seen that. It was mind-blowing for me. And here I am a year later getting my phone out to take pictures of the fully automated Ubers. What is the name? Mavos? Thank you. Never seen it before. It's an eerie sight for me that there's no driver behind the wheel. And so this is where autonomy is advanced based upon increasing levels of trust. It's a journey of autonomy as trust increases. And I've missed 2 slides out. But if tools like Cursor are offering engineers this kind of picture and these workflows and these choices, and web data is part of this broader picture, this points to what we're trying to do with this activity. which rather than create a separate solution or a new solution, we're creating components that help solutions like VS Code or Cursor to do that kind of offering for web scraping and to do web scraping well, to give engineers these kinds of choice to achieve the kind of characteristics that I touched on a few slides ago, of deterministic quality, of engineering control. Because that's what code-based solutions and tools like Cursor are doing, this controllable level of autonomy. And our own teams are making use of this component. This is now default for our own professional services team. And it's allowing us to extend our stages of productivity. John described the dream to be the 10x engineer. That's a journey. We're monitoring the productivity gains in our own professional services team now. These are teams who gather web data for clients who have critical web data needs, where quality is non-negotiable. And so the journey of automation is one where these promises must be kept along the way. And where are we now in productivity gains? Around 2.5x. And we can continue to push that with further work around automated QA and maintenance and get that to 3x and 5x, but where the promise of quality remains constant along the way. And this is a theme that's part of our roadmaps. I mentioned maintenance. And again, where should the autonomy slider be for maintenance? So we have monitoring. We can regenerate the code, just as we saw in John's demo. But what happens to that regenerated code? We should probably give the engineer the choice to say, look, when the code breaks and you regenerate it, give me an alert, give me a pull request, and I will review that pull request. And if I'm happy with it, I'll push that to production. Now, over time, we may win the trust of that engineer, maybe for specific sites, where the engineer says, you know, the last 5 pull requests, I find I'm not even reading them anymore. I've got faith in them, for that site at least. Now I just want it to put it live. So I can come in on a Monday morning with a healthy, happy spider. I didn't have to spend my weekend on this. But that's a journey of establishing trust. But in our roadmap, the first item right now is maturity of solution. This is an alpha release. This went live yesterday. So we're comfortable standing up and doing a live demo now. But it's at the early stage. We're hungry for feedback. We got some great feedback yesterday with the workshops. This is great. This still needs some work. This is what we're looking to act upon to build out the maturity of the solution. So please, if I can ask a favor of you, please install this, give us a try, give us your feedback so we can act upon this, and together we can make this a more mature solution. Thank you. Do we have any questions? Anything on the slide here, Shane?
Just somebody asking, is it free and is it available for everybody to use?
Yes and yes. So to be candid, the way it works, as John described, it's an MCP integration into the Copilot agent or with your own choice of LLM subscription. And so it's not costing us anything at the point of execution, so we can offer this for free. And yes, it is available for general use. You'll find it in the marketplace. Please download it and run it.
How much time does it generally save engineers?
Our own experience right now is around, we're using it in our own professional services teams, around 2.5x. And as I described, that can continue to be advanced through more features of the solution, like maintenance in particular, but building more confidence where people are comfortable to rely more and more on that level of autonomy.
Cool. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, folks.